Mr. Money, the only items of business on the House's agenda today are congratulatory resolutions and recognitions. If you have an inquiry about those items or business, I'm happy to entertain it. Otherwise, please bring your inquiries down to the front of the parliamentarian.
Ask him anyway.
I have questions about the housekeeping resolution, which still needs to be taken up by this House.
It is not before the House at this time.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday you said that the rules adopted last week, which remain the same from prior sessions, continue to provide the House Committee broad abilities to adopt budgets. Is that correct?
That is not before the House at this time. If you have those questions, please bring them down front.
Mr. Speaker,
State your inquiry.
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, are the rules we adopted last Thursday sufficient to allow the Committee on House Administration to determine our personal office budgets?
That is not before the House at this time. As I've stated, if you have an inquiry about that, please bring it down front.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker,
Keep going.
parliamentary
Mr.
inquiry.
Money, for what purpose?
Among other things, H.R. 3 establishes the House Research Organization as an administrative department of the House. Does the House Research Organization still exist today?
Mr. Money, as I previously stated, that is not the business for the House at this time. If you have the inquiry, please bring it down front.
Mr. Speaker, how do we get this business before the House?
Mr. Money, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, how may I, as a freshman member of the House, get before the House matters that are important for the efficient conduct of House business?
Mr. Money, as I previously stated, that particular business is not before the House at this time. If you have questions pertaining it, please bring it down front.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Lowe, for what purpose?
How many days are remaining in the regular session?
Chair is not advised at this time.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Okay. Mr. Lowe, for what purpose?
Is it normal for the Texas legislature to waste this much time at the beginning of session?
Mr. Lowe, that is not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
You have a great day.
Thanks.
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Okay, since H.R. 4 was rammed through this body without time to digest it because it was delivered at 4 o'clock in the morning and because debate was silenced, I do have a couple clarifying questions. It appears that, hang on, hold on. It appears that for the first time ever, the majority party in this chamber is banned from holding positions as vice chairs of committees. Is that your understanding?
Mr. Harrison, that business is not before the House at this time. If you'd like to have a conversation about that, you may be more than welcome to bring it down front.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Okay. Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
It appears that for the first time ever, the House rules require prompt hearings on any topic that the minority party vice chairs wish to hold. Is that consistent with your understanding of the House rules? And has the vice chairman of any committee ever held this power before in the history of the Texas House?
Mr. Harrison, again, that is not before the House at this time. If you'd like to discuss that, you're more than welcome to bring it down front.
I can think of
And
a few
also-
things that are of greater significance to the House on this topic, with all due respect, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
So I'm going to ask you for what purpose, then you tell me for what purpose, and you say parliamentary inquiry, okay?
Yeah, I answered
Mr.
the question.
Harrison, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
All right, it appears from H.R. 4, from the plain text, that for the first time ever, any witness that is designated by the vice chair, which will all be members of the minority party, must be allowed to testify. Is that consistent with your understanding of the House rules, and is there any precedent for vice chairs having that power in the history of the Texas House?
Again, that is not before the House at this time. You're more welcome to bring it down front.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you. It appears from my reading of H.R. 4 that for the first time ever, minority party vice chairs can direct impact statements to effectively harm priority legislation of the minority party. Is that consistent with your understanding of the House rules?
Again, that business is not before the House.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
It appears from the plain reading of the House rules that the minority party in this chamber went from last session, where they had complete control of a handful of committees, to at least partial and perhaps near full control of all of the committees. Is that consistent with your understanding of the House rules which were just passed by this body?
Mr. Harrison, that business is not before the House.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
So it has been widely, I need some help from you, and this is a sincere question. It has been widely reported in the media to great extent, although I'm having trouble finding it in the text of the language, that between now and the end of this session, that the majority party will be able to hold hearings on any liberal topic they want, including gun control, Medicaid expansion, climate change, abortion, transgenderism, and illegal immigration. Is that correct?
Mr. Harrison, that business is not for the House. If you have questions about the rules, please bring them down front.
Yeah, I will thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Mr. Speaker, come on, let's keep the dance going.
Okay. Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry,
State your
Mr. Speaker.
inquiry.
Is it true that these hearings will be televised under the House rules, effectively turning the Capitol TV channel into the Texas DNC network to counter-program the Trump administration?
Mr. Harrison, again, that business is not for the House. If you have a question about the rules, please bring it down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
one final point of parliamentary inquiry,
I'm going to hold you to the final.
and I will allow you to do that.
Okay.
I just want to let the record demonstrate that you did not provide facts to dispute a single one of my contentions regarding the Democrat Empowerment Act that you rammed through this body without debate in a wholly unprecedented manner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's not a question, Mr. Harrison.
Parliamentary inquiry.
So, Mr. Lowe, for what purpose?
Yeah. Is the Speaker of the House supposed to be an administrative position or a political position?
Mr. Lowe, when I say for what purpose, you then say, I have a parliamentary inquiry, then I'll
Okay,
recognize
parliamentary inquiry.
you. State your inquiry.
Is the Speaker supposed to be an administrator of this body or act as a political actor?
That is not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
Of course it's not.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker,
All right. Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Parliamentary inquiry. If the Speaker relying on H.R. 4, Section 14A3 to set and administer committee and office budgets,
Okay, repeat that question.
is the Speaker relying on H.R. 4, Section 14A3 to set and administer committee and office budgets?
Again, that business is not for the House. If you have questions about it, please bring it down front to the parliamentarian.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
During the 88th legislative session, the text of H.R. 4, Section 14A3 was passed by the body, correct?
Yes, Mr. Hopper, that is not the business for the House. If you have questions about that, please bring it down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
During the 88th legislative session, H.R. 3 and housekeeping resolution was enrolled, correct?
That business is not for the House. If you have questions pertaining to that, please bring them down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
During the 88th legislative session, the text of H.R. 4, Section 14A3 was not relied on to set the administer committee and office budgets, correct?
Same as before, business is not for the House at this time. If you have questions pertaining to that, please bring it down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
What is the legal authority relied upon by the Speaker to employ the procedure of relying on H.R. 4, Section 14A3 to set and administer committee and office budgets?
That business is not for the House. If you have questions pertaining to that, please bring it down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
Please state your inquiry.
What lawyers were consulted by the Speaker to employ the procedure of relying on H.R. 4, Section 14A3 to set and administer the committee and office budgets?
Mr. Hopper, that business is up for the House. If you have questions pertaining to that, please bring them down front.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hopper, for what purpose?
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
How does the reliance on H.R. 4, Section 14A3 to set and administer committee and office budgets comport with Article 3, Section 44 of the Texas Constitution?
Again, that business is not for the House at this time. If you have questions pertaining to it, please bring it down front.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Toth, for
Speaker.
what purpose?
Ask that the prior discussion between you and these members be reduced to writing and placed in the journal.
All right, motion has been made to reduce to writing and place in the journal the prior discussion. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.